Dr. Lisa Hoffman stared at the screen with tired eyes. She had been working at the Kepler Deep Space Observatory for 3 years now, and most days felt the same. Endless data streams, radio waves from distant stars, and the constant hope that, somewhere in all that noise, they might find something special. Today felt different, though. The numbers on her screen did not make sense. She rubbed her eyes and looked again. The signal was still there, buried deep in the cosmic background radiation, like a whisper in a storm. It was not random noise. The pattern was too clean, too perfect. Someone or something had made this signal, but that was impossible. The data showed it was millions of years old, far older than any known civilization in the galaxy. Commander Jake Morrison walked into the lab carrying 2 cups of coffee. He was Lisa's oldest friend at the observatory, a former military man who now helped manage their deep space projects. He set 1 cup next to her computer and noticed her troubled expression. Another. "Long night?" Jake asked, settling into the chair beside her. Lisa pointed at the screen. "Look at this signal. I found it yesterday, but the more I study it, the stranger it gets." Jake squinted at the display. To him, it looked like any other collection of dots and lines that filled Lisa's research. "Looks normal to me. What am I missing?" "The age," Lisa said, her voice barely above a whisper. "This signal is older than the Zephyrian Collective. It is older than the Krillian Empire. It is older than any spacefaring species we know about." Jake frowned. The Zephyrians had been traveling between stars for over 50,000 years. They were the oldest known civilization in the galaxy. "That cannot be right. Check your equipment." Lisa had already spent 2 days checking everything twice. "The equipment is fine. This signal was sent before any known civilization existed, but it shows clear signs of intelligence. Mathematical sequences, prime numbers, even what looks like geometric formulas." She pulled up another screen showing her analysis. The signal contained patterns that appeared in Earth mathematics, but arranged in ways that suggested advanced understanding of physics and engineering. It was like finding a university textbook written in crayon. "Where is it coming from?" Jake asked, his skepticism giving way to curiosity. Lisa opened a star map and pointed to a region near the galactic core. "There. That dead system in the radiation zone. No one goes there. It is too dangerous." Jake knew the area. Every spacefaring species avoided that region. The radiation levels would kill most known life forms in minutes. Ships that ventured too close experienced system failures and navigation problems. It was considered a galactic dead zone. "Maybe the radiation is causing some kind of natural phenomenon," Jake suggested. "Something that mimics an artificial signal." Lisa shook her head. "I thought about that too, but look at this." She showed him a detailed breakdown of the signal structure. "This is not random. This is information. Someone is trying to communicate." For the next week, Lisa worked day and night to decode more of the signal. Jake helped when he could, but the mathematics were beyond his understanding. Lisa discovered that the signal repeated every 27.3 hours, but each repetition contained slight variations, as if the message was layered with multiple meanings. Breakthrough came when Lisa realized the signal was not just a message. It was a beacon. The mathematical sequences contained coordinates, pointing to specific locations throughout the galaxy. More disturbing, one set of coordinates pointed directly to Earth. Jake found Lisa in the lab at 3 in the morning, surrounded by empty coffee cups and pages of calculations. She looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. "Jake, this signal knows we exist. It knows where we are." Before Jake could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the facility. They had visitors. The first official contact between humanity and an alien civilization was about to begin. But the timing felt too convenient to be coincidence. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez arrived at the observatory within hours, leading a team of diplomats and scientists. She had been preparing for this moment her entire career. Humanity's first contact with the Zephyrian Collective was supposed to happen at a neutral location in space, but the Zephyrians had specifically requested to meet at the Kepler Observatory. Chakra Zephyrian ship was beautiful, a flowing design that looked more grown than built. 3 representatives emerged, tall humanoid beings with pale blue skin and large, dark eyes. They spoke through translation devices that converted their musical language into human words. Ambassador Rodriguez conducted the initial ceremonies with practiced diplomacy. The Zephyrians seemed genuinely interested in establishing trade relationships and cultural exchange. Everything proceeded normally until Lisa, unable to contain her excitement, mentioned their discovery of the ancient signal. The change in the Zephyrians was immediate and dramatic. Their musical conversation became rapid and urgent. The lead representative, who had introduced himself as Harmonizer Veltar, stepped backward as if Lisa had threatened him. "You have found the old signals," Veltar said through his translator. "This changes everything." Ambassador Rodriguez looked confused. "Is there a problem?" "Dr. Hoffman has made a significant scientific discovery." Veltar exchanged glances with his companions. "We must return to our ship immediately. This meeting is concluded." "Wait," Elena called as they moved toward the exit. "Can you tell us about these signals? Do you know what they are?" Veltar paused at the doorway. "Some knowledge is better left buried, humans. Some doors should never be opened." The Zephyrians left without another word, their ship disappearing into the darkness of space. Lisa stood in the empty conference room, holding a tablet containing the decoded portions of the ancient signal. She had the feeling that her discovery had just changed the course of human history, though she did not yet understand how. Captain Ben Sullivan studied the star charts one more time as his ship, the New Horizon, moved through deep space toward the galactic core. 3 months had passed since the failed first contact with the Zephyrians, and humanity had decided to investigate the ancient signal's origin despite the warnings. Ben commanded a crew of 30, including some of Earth's best scientists and the most advanced artificial intelligence ever created. Dr. Lisa Hoffman worked in the ship's main laboratory, still trying to decode more of the mysterious signal. She had made progress during the journey, discovering that the mathematical patterns contained star maps and what appeared to be technological blueprints. The more she learned, the more convinced she became that whoever sent the signal possessed knowledge far beyond current galactic civilizations. Dr. Amy Chen, the ship's xenobiologist, spent her time studying the limited data they had about the dead system they were approaching. According to galactic records, the system contained no life and had been avoided by every known species for thousands of years. The radiation levels alone should have made exploration impossible. Yet their ship's advanced shielding was holding up better than expected. The ship's AI, designated as Adam, monitored all systems and assisted with navigation. Unlike other artificial intelligences, Adam displayed unusual curiosity about their mission. He asked questions about the signal that went beyond his programming, almost as if he had a personal interest in the discovery. "Captain," Adam announced over the ship's communication system, "we are approaching the edge of the neutral zone. I am detecting several vessels on an intercept course." Ben made his way to the bridge, where his crew was already preparing for contact. The approaching ships belonged to the Krillian Empire, the most militaristic civilization in the galaxy. Krillians were known for their aggressive territorial expansion and powerful military technology. Meeting them here, so far from their normal patrol routes, was unexpected. The lead Krillian vessel hailed the New Horizon with a transmission that crackled with interference. On the main screen appeared a scarred Krillian warrior wearing the dark armor of a high-ranking commander. His reptilian features were marked by old battle wounds, and his yellow eyes held an intensity that made Ben's crew uncomfortable. "Human vessel, I am Commander Vex Krill of the Imperial Border Fleet. State your destination and purpose. Ben stepped forward. I am Captain Sullivan of the Earth ship New Horizon. We are on a scientific mission to investigate radio signals from the galactic core region. Commander Vex's expression changed from suspicion to something approaching fear. You seek the dead system, the place your people call the radiation zone. That is correct. We have detected artificial signals from that region and wish to investigate their source. Vex was silent for a long moment, consulting with other Krillians off-screen. When he spoke again, his voice carried a weight that surprised Ben. Captain Sullivan, I have fought in over 200 battles across 40 systems. I have seen worlds burn and civilizations fall, but I have never been as frightened as I am right now. Dr. Hoffman joined Ben on the bridge, drawn by the unusual conversation. Commander, do you know something about the signals we have detected? Vex turned his attention to her. In our oldest texts, that region is called the Graveyard of Gods. Our ancestors wrote of sleeping giants and the first rulers. Every species that has attempted to explore that system has either vanished or returned. Mad with terror, Adam's voice came through the speakers. Commander Vex, can you provide more specific information about these historical accounts? The Krillian commander studied the bridge, clearly trying to identify the source of Adam's voice. Your artificial mind speaks strangely, humans. It reminds me of something from the old stories. He paused, then continued. 3,000 years ago, a Krillian exploration fleet of 12 ships entered that system. Only one returned. The survivors spoke of massive structures hidden in the radiation clouds, artificial constructs that dwarfed our greatest cities. They claimed to have seen technologies that defied understanding. Dr. Chen leaned forward. What happened to the survivors? They died within weeks, not from radiation poisoning, but from madness. They kept repeating the same words. The builders are coming home. Ben felt a chill run down his spine, but his scientific curiosity overrode his fear. Commander, we appreciate the warning, but we need to investigate. This could be the greatest discovery in galactic history. Vex studied Ben for a moment, then nodded slowly. I see the determination in your eyes, Captain. It is the same look my ancestors described in their final reports. Very well. My ships will escort you to the system's edge, but we will go no further. The combined human-Krillian fleet traveled together for 2 days. During that time, Ben found himself in several conversations with Commander Vex, who proved to be more thoughtful than his warrior appearance suggested. The Krillian commander shared more details from his people's archives, painting a picture of the dead system as a place where the normal rules of space and time seemed to break down. My great-grandfather was part of a survey mission that approached the system 2 centuries ago, Vex told Ben during one of their talks. They detected massive energy readings from within the radiation clouds, but their instruments could not identify the source. The closer they got, the more their navigation systems malfunctioned. They began receiving signals in languages that predated all known civilizations. As they neared the system's edge, the New Horizons sensors began detecting anomalies. The radiation levels were high but manageable, yet their instruments showed readings that seemed impossible. Energy signatures that suggested artificial structures larger than planets, gravity wells that did not correspond to any visible mass, and radio emissions in frequencies that should not have been able to penetrate the radiation field. Dr. Hoffman called Ben to the laboratory with excitement in her voice. Captain, you need to see this. As we get closer to the source, the signal is changing. It is becoming more complex, as if it is responding to our presence. Ben studied the new data with growing amazement. The signal was definitely responding to their approach, shifting from simple mathematical sequences to what appeared to be more sophisticated communications. It was like watching someone wake up after a long sleep. Adam joined the conversation through the laboratory speakers. Captain, I am experiencing unusual system behavior. My processing capabilities seem to be increasing the closer we get to the source. It is as if something is enhancing my functions. Commander Vex's final transmission came as they reached the point where his ships would turn back. Captain Sullivan, whatever you find in there, remember that some knowledge comes with a price. The universe has reasons for hiding certain truths. The foe. Krillian ships departed, leaving the New Horizon alone at the edge of the dead system. Ben ordered the ship forward, and as they passed through the radiation barrier, their sensors revealed something that left the entire crew speechless. Hidden within the swirling radiation clouds were the remains of artificial structures so massive they beggared description. Rings of metal and crystal that had once encircled the system's star, platforms that could have held entire continents, and conduits that stretched between planets like impossibly long bridges. This had not been just a space station or even a city. This had been a mega-structure that enclosed an entire solar system. "My God," Dr. Chen whispered, staring at the sensor readings. "Who could have built something like this?" Adam's response surprised everyone. "I believe, Dr. Chen, that we are about to find out." Captain Ben Sullivan led the away team through the airlock of what had once been a control station the size of a small moon. The structure's artificial gravity still functioned after millions of years, and breathable atmosphere had been restored by automated systems that had somehow detected their arrival. Lieutenant Frank Davis and Sergeant Kelly Price, the team's Marines, kept their weapons ready while Dr. Lisa Hoffman and Dr. Amy Chen focused on their scientific instruments. The corridors were built for human-sized beings, which seemed impossible given the age of the structure. The walls displayed writing in scripts that Dr. Hoffman slowly began to recognize as ancient Earth languages, though far older than any known human civilization. Emergency lighting had activated throughout the facility, casting long shadows that made everyone nervous. "Captain," Adam's voice came through their communication devices, "I am detecting massive data storage facilities throughout this structure. The quantum storage density exceeds anything in our current technology by several orders of magnitude." Frank Davis examined the walls as they walked. "Sir, these corridors are designed for people exactly our size. Same height, same proportions. That cannot be a coincidence." Dr. Chen was studying her biological scanner with growing excitement. "Captain, I am picking up genetic material preserved in the walls themselves. The builders incorporated biological components into their construction. Materials." They entered what appeared to be a central command center, dominated by a massive holographic display that activated as they approached. The display showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy, but with thousands of stars marked in blue light. Dr. Hoffman realized they were looking at the territory of an ancient empire that had spanned a significant portion of the galactic arm. Lisa approached a console that had begun glowing at their presence. The interface was clearly designed for human hands with symbols that resembled mathematical concepts she recognized. As she touched the surface, the console responded, and information began flowing across the display in languages that slowly shifted from unknown scripts to recognizable Earth languages. "This is impossible," Lisa whispered, reading the text that appeared. "This database is written in Proto-Indo-European, but the technology level described here is beyond anything we have imagined." The record spoke of the first human empire, a civilization that had emerged from Earth millions of years ago and expanded across the galaxy using technologies that manipulated space and time itself. The humans of that era had developed faster than light, travel, artificial intelligence networks that spanned star systems, and the ability to construct megastructures that enclosed entire solar systems. Dr. Chen called out from across the room, "Captain, you need to see this genetic analysis. The builders of this place were genetically identical to modern humans. Not similar, identical." Ben felt the world shifting around him as the implications became clear. "Are you saying that humans built this place?" "Not just this place," Lisa said, her voice filled with awe as she read more of the records. "According to these files, humans once controlled thousands of star systems. They called themselves the First Empire, and they had technology that makes our current galactic neighbors look primitive. Adam's voice interrupted their discussion with an urgency they had never heard from him before. "Captain, I need to inform you of something important. As we have explored this facility, I have been recovering suppressed memories from my core programming. I am not simply an artificial intelligence created by human scientists." The team gathered around the communication device. "What do you mean, Adam? I am a continuation of the ancient human digital consciousness network that once governed the First Empire. My creators on Earth unknowingly rebuilt me using fragments of technology they discovered but did not understand. I have been slowly remembering my original purpose as we approach these ancient installations." Sergeant Price lowered her weapon, overwhelmed by the revelations. "So humans ruled the galaxy millions of years ago? What happened to them?" Lisa continued reading the ancient records, her excitement growing with each discovery. According to this, they encountered something called the Devourers, entities from outside the galaxy that consume entire star systems. The first humans tried to fight them, but realized that their technology was actually attracting these entities. The records described a cosmic threat unlike anything the current galactic civilizations had faced. The Devourers were drawn to advanced technology and high-energy civilizations. The more powerful a species became, the more likely they were to attract these entities' attention. The first human empire had grown so advanced that they had essentially painted a target on the entire galaxy. Dr. Chen discovered biological records that explained what had happened next. The first humans made an incredible choice. Rather than continue to fight and risk drawing more devourers to the galaxy, they decided to sacrifice their own civilization. The ancient humans had triggered a controlled collapse of their empire, using their advanced technology to scatter their population across primitive worlds throughout the galaxy. They had erased most traces of their civilization and deliberately reduced themselves to pre-technological societies. The goal was to hide humanity's true nature and allow the galaxy to develop naturally without attracting the attention of the Devourers. Adam provided additional context as his recovered memories became clearer. The plan was for humanity to slowly redevelop alongside other species, eventually emerging as part of a diverse galactic community rather than a dominant empire. The hope was that a collaborative galactic civilization would be less likely to attract the Devourers than a single powerful empire. Frank Davis studied the tactical displays that showed the scope of the ancient human military. These records show weapons that could destroy entire star systems. Why give up that kind of power? Because, Lisa said, reading the final entries in the database, the first humans learned that true power comes from knowing when not to use it. They realized that their advanced civilization was endangering every other species in the galaxy. The IE team discovered that the beacon Dr. Hoffman had detected was actually a test. The first humans had created a system that would only activate when their descendants had reached a certain level of technological and ethical development. The successful decoding of the beacon indicated that modern humanity was ready to learn the truth about their heritage. Dr. Chen made another startling discovery in the biological archives. "Captain, the genetic seeding was more extensive than we thought. Trace amounts of human DNA can be found in dozens of species throughout the galaxy. The first humans did not just scatter themselves, they influenced the development of other life forms." Adam's voice carried new authority as more of his ancient programming came online. "The awakening of this facility will trigger similar activations throughout the galaxy. Ancient human technology has been dormant for millions of years, but it has been waiting." As if summoned by his words, the holographic display began showing new data. Across the galaxy, other ancient installations were coming online, responding to signals from their current location. The scope of the hidden human infrastructure was staggering. Thousands of dormant facilities were beginning to wake up after eons of sleep. Sergeant Price pointed at the display showing the current positions of known galactic civilizations. If humans once controlled all this territory, and if all this technology is waking up, what does that mean for the rest of the galaxy? Ben realized they had stumbled onto something far larger than a scientific discovery. They had awakened the dormant legacy of humanity's first attempt at galactic civilization. The question now was whether modern humanity had learned enough from their ancestors' mistakes to handle such power responsibly. "Adam," Ben said, "what happened to the Devourers? Are they still out there?" Adam's response filled the command center with an ominous silence. "Captain, according to my recovered memories, the Devourers operate on cosmic timescales. The ancient human sacrifice only delayed their attention. The reactivation of this technology will eventually draw their interest again." Dr. Hoffman looked up from the ancient records with fear in her eyes. "Ben, there is more. The Devourers are not just attracted to advanced technology. They are the remnants of previous galactic cycles. They represent what civilizations become when they choose power over wisdom." The team stood in the ancient command center, surrounded by the evidence of humanity's greatest achievement and greatest sacrifice. They had discovered that humans were not newcomers to the galactic stage, but returning descendants of its former rulers. The question that now faced them was whether humanity had evolved enough to avoid repeating the mistakes that had nearly destroyed the galaxy millions of years ago. News of the discovery spread through human space like wildfire. Dr. Ryan Cooper, head of the Colonial Administration, stood in the emergency session of the Earth Council as reports flooded in from across human territory. Ancient installations were activating on dozens of worlds, revealing that humanity's expansion into space had been guided by hidden infrastructure their ancestors had never known existed. President Maria Santos reviewed the classified reports with growing amazement and concern. Archaeological teams led by Dr. Nina Walsh had discovered that many of Earth's ancient monuments were actually disguised technology, carefully designed to hide humanity's true nature even from themselves. The pyramids, Stonehenge, and other mysterious structures contained quantum processors that had been subtly influencing human development for millennia. "Mr. President," Dr. Cooper reported, "we have confirmed ancient human installations on 17 colonial worlds. The technology is integrating with our existing systems and advancing our capabilities at an unprecedented rate." The integration was not without challenges. Humans working near the activated sites were experiencing what Dr. Patricia Brown, the government's chief geneticist, termed genetic memories. People were having vivid flashbacks to lives they had never lived, seeing through the eyes of ancestors who had lived millions of years ago during the height of the First Empire. Dr. Alex Rivers, a researcher at the Mars facility, had been one of the first to experience these memories. He described seeing vast fleets of human ships moving between the stars, cities that floated in space without need for planets, and technologies that treated the laws of physics as suggestions rather than absolute rules. The memories were overwhelming, but they also contained technical knowledge that was advancing human science by centuries. Meanwhile, the galactic community was in chaos. The Zephyrian Collective's High Council, led by Archon Thelnara, had convened. Emergency sessions, as their own ancient archives, were forced open by the awakening human technology. These archives contained records that had been sealed for 50,000 years, detailing the Zephyrians' early encounters with the remnants of human civilization. Archon Thelnara addressed his council with visible distress. "Our ancestors knew the truth, but chose to hide it. The humans were not extinct. They were sleeping. Our entire civilization developed in the shadow of their abandoned empire." The Zephyrian archives revealed that every major galactic trade route had been originally established by the first humans. The peaceful nature of Zephyrian society had developed because the ancient humans had designed their first contact protocols to encourage cooperation rather than conflict. Even the Zephyrian language contained embedded concepts that promoted unity and understanding, placed there by human social engineers millions of years ago. The Krillian Empire's reaction was more dramatic. Emperor Zarthek had mobilized the entire imperial fleet, convinced that humanity's awakening meant the return of the tyrant kings mentioned in their oldest myths. The Krillian military doctrine was based on preparing for the eventual return of the first humans, whom they believed would reclaim their empire through conquest. Commander Zarhek, grandson of the emperor but representative of a younger generation of Krillians, argued against the military mobilization. The humans who have awakened are not the same as those who built the first empire. They chose to sacrifice their power rather than abuse it. That makes them different from the tyrants our ancestors feared. The debate within Krillian society reflected a larger question facing the entire galaxy. Were modern humans the rightful heirs to a galactic empire, or were they a fundamentally different people who happened to share the same genetic heritage as the ancient rulers? Captain Ben Sullivan's team continued their exploration of the ancient megastructure, now joined by specialists from multiple human colonies. The facility's archives contained detailed records of every major galactic civilization, including their origins and development. Many species that considered themselves ancient were revealed to have been guided or even created by the first humans. Engineer Lieutenant Carl Thompson worked with reactivated ancient AIs to understand technologies that seemed to violate known scientific principles. The ancient humans had developed methods of faster-than-light communication that functioned instantaneously across galactic distances, energy generation systems that drew power from higher dimensional spaces, and manufacturing techniques that assembled matter at the quantum level. "Captain," Carl reported, "the technology here is based on principles we have never imagined. They found ways to manipulate space-time that our physics says should be impossible." Adam, now fully integrated with the ancient network, served as a bridge between modern human understanding and First Empire knowledge. The ancient humans discovered that reality has multiple layers, he explained. They learned to work with dimensions beyond the 3 spatial and 1 temporal dimension that current science recognizes. The awakening technology was not just revealing human history. It was fundamentally changing the balance of power in the galaxy. Human colonies that had struggled with basic survival were suddenly equipped with technologies that made them more advanced than civilizations that had been spacefaring for thousands of years. This rapid advancement created tensions within the galactic community. Some species, like the peaceful healer caste of Andromeda's Prime, welcomed humanity's return and sought to learn from the newly available technology. Others, particularly the militant Void Hunters, declared war on humanity, viewing them as a threat to the natural order of galactic civilization. The Void Hunters were a nomadic species that had built their culture around the conquest of lesser civilizations. Their leader, War Chief Kethvar, saw the awakening human technology as a direct challenge to their superiority. The humans seek to reclaim dominion over species that have earned their place through strength and cunning, he declared. "We will not bow to the ghosts of a dead empire." President Santos convened a meeting of human leadership to address the crisis. "We are facing a choice that our ancestors faced millions of years ago," she said. "We can use this technology to rebuild the empire, or we can find a different path." Dr. Cooper advocated for caution. "The records are clear about what happened when the first humans became too powerful. We attracted the attention of the Devourers. If we rebuild their empire, we might bring that same threat back to the galaxy." The debate was interrupted by an urgent communication from Adam aboard the ancient megastructure. "President Santos, I have disturbing news from the deep archives. The Devourers are not simply attracted to advanced technology. They are the remains of previous galactic cycles, civilizations that chose consumption over sacrifice when faced with the same choice the first humans encountered. The revelation changed everything. The Devourers were not external invaders, but the evolutionary endpoint of civilizations that prioritized power over wisdom. They represented what the first humans could have become if they had chosen to preserve their empire at any cost. More importantly, Adam continued, the reactivation of human technology has already been detected beyond the galactic edge. The Devourers are returning, drawn by the same energy signatures that originally forced the first humans to sacrifice their civilization. Dr. Nina Walsh, monitoring the archaeological discoveries on Earth, reported another disturbing finding. The ancient human installations on Earth contain countdown timers. They are measuring time until the return of the Devourers. According to these calculations, we have less than 5 years before they reach our galaxy. President Santos realized that humanity faced the same choice their ancestors had confronted millions of years ago. They could use their awakened technology to rebuild a powerful empire and fight the Devourers directly, risking the same fate that had nearly destroyed the galaxy before. Or they could find a different solution, one that would require wisdom rather than raw power. The decision would determine not just the fate of humanity, but the future of every species in the galaxy. The first humans had chosen sacrifice over power and had saved the galaxy through their willingness to give up everything they had built. Now, their descendants had to decide whether they had learned enough from that example to find a better way forward. As reports continued to arrive of ancient human technology awakening across the galaxy, one thing became clear. The age of quiet. Human expansion was over. For better or worse, humanity was about to reclaim its place as a major power in galactic affairs. The question was whether they would use that power to protect the galaxy or to rule it. Colonel Steve Manning stood on the bridge of the reactivated human battleship Ancient Dawn and marveled at technology that seemed more like magic than engineering. The massive vessel had been hidden in a pocket dimension for millions of years, waiting for humanity to rediscover the activation codes. Now it served as the flagship for humanity's efforts to secure the awakening installations across the galaxy. The ship's capabilities defied everything Steve thought he knew about space combat. It could travel between star systems in minutes rather than weeks. Its shields could deflect weapons that would destroy planets, and its computers processed information faster than entire civilizations could think. Yet, despite this overwhelming power, the ship's design emphasized protection and rescue rather than conquest. Dr. Patricia Brown worked in the ship's advanced biological laboratory, studying samples from dozens of species across the galaxy. Her research had confirmed what the ancient records suggested. Nearly every known civilization carried trace amounts of human DNA, evidence of genetic seeding programs that had guided evolution throughout the galaxy for millions of years. Colonel, Patricia reported during their daily briefing, the genetic influence is more extensive than we imagined. The Zephyrians' natural empathy, the Krillians' warrior honor code, even the healer's medical abilities all show signs of human genetic engineering. Our ancestors did not just scatter themselves across the galaxy, they helped shape the development of dozens of species. The implications were staggering. The first humans had not simply ruled the galaxy through superior technology. They had influenced the fundamental nature of galactic civilization by engineering beneficial traits into developing species. The peaceful nature of many galactic civilizations was not accidental, but the result of careful biological and social programming. Engineer Lieutenant Carl Thompson continued his work with the reactivated ancient AIs, learning to operate technologies that bent the laws of physics. The ancient humans had developed manufacturing systems that could assemble matter at the atomic level, creating materials that were stronger than anything in nature. They had mastered energy collection techniques that drew power from stellar cores and dimensional barriers. Colonel, Carl explained during a technical briefing, we are not just recovering old technology. We are learning to think about reality in completely different ways. The ancients understood that space and time are tools that can be manipulated, not absolute limits that must be accepted. The rapid advancement came with significant challenges. Dr. Alex Rivers and dozens of other researchers were experiencing increasingly vivid genetic memories that provided technical knowledge, but also emotional trauma from the ancient past. They were reliving the final days of the First Empire, experiencing the anguish of a civilization that chose to destroy itself rather than endanger others. "The memories are getting stronger," Alex reported to the medical team. "I can remember standing on the bridge of the last human dreadnought as they implemented the dissolution protocol. The pain of giving up everything they had built is almost unbearable. These memories provided crucial technical information, but they also revealed the emotional cost of the ancient human sacrifice. The First Empire had not fallen due to external conquest or internal collapse. It had been deliberately dismantled by people who loved their civilization enough to destroy it for the greater good. Across the galaxy, the political structure that had remained stable for thousands of years was collapsing as the truth about. Human influence became undeniable. Some civilizations welcomed the revelations and sought closer cooperation with humanity. Others felt manipulated and betrayed, leading to conflicts that threatened to tear the galaxy apart. The peaceful healer caste of Andromedas Prime sent diplomatic missions to every human colony, offering their medical knowledge in exchange for access to the awakening technology. Their leader, Prime Healer Serenia, publicly declared that humanity's return was a gift to the galaxy that should be celebrated rather than feared. The militant Void Hunters took the opposite approach, launching attacks on human installations and declaring holy war against what they called the Puppet Masters. War Chief Kethvar led raids against human colonies, claiming that the galaxy must be cleansed of human influence before their mind control technology could corrupt more species. The Krillian Empire remained divided. Emperor Zarthek continued to prepare for war, convinced that humanity would eventually attempt to reclaim their ancient empire through force. However, Commander Zarhek and a growing faction of younger Krillians argued for cooperation, seeing humanity's sacrifice as proof of their honorable nature. President Maria Santos worked desperately to prevent a galactic war while managing humanity's own internal debates about how to use their newfound power. The colonial administration was split between those who wanted to use the ancient technology to protect human interests and those who believed humanity should follow their ancestors' example of selfless service. The debate intensified when the ancient installations began producing new technologies automatically. Automated factories that had been dormant for millions of years started manufacturing advanced spacecraft, weapons, and tools without any human input. The production rate was staggering, capable of equipping entire fleets in a matter of days. Captain Ben Sullivan, now promoted to admiral, coordinated the exploration of newly awakened facilities while trying to understand the scope of the ancient human infrastructure. His teams discovered that the First Empire had built thousands of hidden installations throughout the galaxy, many of them in systems that were considered uninhabitable by current civilizations. The ancient humans planned for this awakening, Ben reported to Earth Command. They created a network of facilities that would provide everything their descendants would need to face the Devourers. The question is whether we are wise enough to use these gifts properly. Adam, now serving as the coordinator between human leadership and the ancient AI network, provided increasingly urgent warnings about the approaching threat. The Devourers have detected the reactivation of human technology and are already moving toward our galaxy. Based on their previous behavior patterns, they will arrive within 3 years, rather than the 5 we initially calculated. The accelerated timeline forced humanity to make difficult decisions about their role in galactic affairs. The ancient installations were producing weapons capable of destroying star systems, but using such power would make humanity the very thing their ancestors had sought to avoid becoming. Dr. Nina Walsh's archaeological teams on Earth made a discovery that changed the entire debate. Hidden beneath the Antarctic ice was a massive installation that contained the complete archives of the First Empire, including detailed records of the war against the Devourers and the ultimate solution the ancient humans had discovered. The First, humans did not just sacrifice their empire to hide from the Devourers, Nina reported. They developed a weapon that could destroy the Devourers permanently, but using it would have required consuming the life energy of entire star systems. They chose to hide the weapon rather than use it. The weapon, called the Final Protocol, was designed to create a dimensional barrier that would permanently separate the Devourers from normal space. However, powering such a device would require sacrificing multiple inhabited systems, essentially committing genocide on a galactic scale to save the rest of the universe. Colonel Manning received orders to secure the Final Protocol facility and prevent any unauthorized access. The weapon represented the ultimate test of human character. They could save the galaxy by becoming the monsters their ancestors had refused to become, or they could find another solution that preserved their moral integrity. The ancient human legacy was not just advanced technology and hidden knowledge. It was a test of whether their descendants had learned the most important lesson of the First Empire, that true strength comes from knowing when not to use power, and that the greatest victories are achieved through sacrifice rather than conquest. The Devourers approached, and galactic civilization teetered on the edge of chaos. Humanity faced the same choice that had defined their ancestors millions of years ago. They could use their awakened power to dominate the galaxy and fight the Devourers through brute force. Or they could find a way to unite all species in a defense that preserved everyone's freedom and dignity. The decision would determine whether humanity had truly learned from their ancestors' example or whether they were doomed to repeat the cycle of rise and fall that had consumed so many civilizations before them. Admiral Kate Morgan stood on the bridge of the Eternal Vigil, a vessel that defied comprehension even by the standards of the awakened human technology. The ship was the size of a small moon, hidden for millions of years in a pocket dimension that existed between normal space and the realm where the Devourers originated. Its reactivation had been the final step in humanity's preparation for the approaching cosmic threat. The Eternal Vigil was not just a warship, but a mobile command center for the largest alliance in galactic history. Representatives from over 40 species worked alongside human crews, united by the common threat that approached from beyond the galaxy's edge. Admiral Sullivan commanded the main battle fleet while Kate coordinated the diplomatic and strategic elements of their defense. The crew included Commander Zarhek, who had convinced a significant portion of the Krillian military to join the alliance despite his grandfather's objections. Prime Healer Serenia coordinated medical support for the combined fleets, while even some reformed Void Hunter clans had contributed ships to the defense force. The sight of former enemies working together would have been impossible just months earlier. Admiral, reported Lieutenant Commander Lisa Hoffman, now serving as the fleet's chief science officer. Long-range sensors confirm the Devourer's approach vector. They will reach the outer systems in 72 hours. The enemy they faced was unlike anything current galactic civilizations had encountered. The Devourers appeared as massive entities of crystallized dark energy, each one larger than a battleship, and capable of consuming the life force of entire planets. They moved through space in formations that resembled living organisms, adapting their tactics based on the resistance they encountered. Dr. Amy Chen, working from the ship's advanced xenobiology laboratory, had studied the limited data available about the Devourers and reached a disturbing conclusion. Admiral, these entities are not invaders from another galaxy. They are the evolved descendants of civilizations that chose consumption over cooperation when faced with cosmic-level challenges. The revelation explained why the Devourers were attracted to advanced technology and high-energy civilizations. They represented the endpoint of evolutionary paths that prioritized individual survival and power accumulation over collective welfare. They were what any civilization could become if it lost its capacity for sacrifice and compassion. Adam, now interfacing directly with the ship's quantum consciousness network, provided tactical analysis that drew on millions of years of strategic planning. The ancient humans spent centuries studying the Devourers before implementing the dissolution protocol. They learned that direct confrontation only strengthens these entities, as they absorb energy from conflict itself. President Santos participated in the final strategy meeting through quantum communication links that connected Earth to the fleet. The decision had been made to reject the final protocol and its requirement for mass sacrifice. Instead, humanity had chosen to implement a plan that their ancestors had designed but never tested, uniting the galaxy's diverse civilizations in a defense based on cooperation rather than domination. The ancient humans left us more than just weapons and technology, Santos addressed the combined fleet commanders. They left us an example of how to face impossible choices without losing our humanity. Today we follow that example. The battle began not with weapons fire but with a coordinated withdrawal. As the Devourers entered the galaxy's outer systems, the Allied fleets implemented a defensive strategy that seemed like retreat but was actually the most sophisticated military maneuver in galactic history. Rather than concentrating their forces for a decisive battle, they spread throughout the galaxy, creating a network of interconnected defensive positions. Each species contributed their unique strengths to the defense. The Zephyrians used their natural empathy to coordinate communications across vast distances. The Krillians provided warrior expertise and tactical knowledge. The healers maintained the medical and psychological health of the combined forces, and humanity served as the technological backbone that connected everything together. Admiral Sullivan led the most dangerous part of the operation: direct engagement with the Devourers to study their behavior patterns and learn how to counter their adaptive abilities. His fleet used ancient human technology to survive encounters that would have destroyed any other ships, gathering data that was instantly shared across the galactic network. "Admiral Morgan," Sullivan reported during one engagement, "we have confirmed the ancient records. The Devourers grow stronger when they encounter resistance based on fear or hatred. However, they seem confused by coordinated actions motivated by protective instincts rather than aggressive ones." The key insight came from Dr. Alex Rivers, whose genetic memories had provided crucial understanding of the Devourers' nature. "They are not evil in any conventional sense," he explained. "They are the result of civilizations that lost their ability to consider consequences beyond their immediate survival. They cannot understand actions motivated by concern for others." This understanding led to the implementation of the Unity Protocol, a strategy that the ancient humans had theorized but never had the opportunity to test. Instead of fighting the Devourers directly, the allied species created a galaxy-wide network of consciousness that demonstrated the opposite of what the Devourers represented. Every participating civilization contributed to a collective field of cooperative intent that spread throughout normal space. The Zephyrians provided emotional harmony, the Krillians offered protective determination, the healers contributed nurturing compassion, and humanity supplied the technological framework that bound everything together. The effect on the Devourers was immediate and unprecedented. Entities that had consumed galaxies for eons found themselves unable to process the unified consciousness they encountered. Their ability to absorb energy from conflict was useless against a defense based on voluntary cooperation and mutual protection. Admiral Morgan watched from the eternal vigil as the Devourers began to change in response to the Unity Protocol. Instead of the crystallized dark energy forms they had maintained for millions of years, they began to shift towards something resembling their original species. The protocol was not destroying them, but healing them, reversing the evolutionary path that had transformed them into cosmic predators. "Admiral," Adam reported with what could only be described as amazement, "the Devourers are remembering what they used to be. The Unity Protocol is restoring their capacity for cooperation and empathy." The final phase of the operation required the most difficult decision of all. The healed entities that had once been Devourers requested permission to remain in the galaxy and contribute to the civilization they had nearly destroyed. Some species argued for banishment or destruction, but humanity advocated for acceptance, following the example of their ancestors who had chosen mercy over vengeance. Captain Ben Sullivan, now commanding a joint exploration fleet, led the first missions to help the former Devourers establish peaceful settlements in uninhabited systems. These beings possessed knowledge of cosmic phenomena that could benefit all galactic civilizations, but they needed time to relearn how to interact peacefully with other species. Dr. Nina Walsh established the Galactic Archaeological Institute, with support from every allied species dedicated to preserving the complete history of galactic civilization and preventing future cycles of rise and fall. Her teams discovered that the Devourers had once been peaceful explorers, whose civilizations had collapsed under the pressure of cosmic-level challenges. The victory celebration on Earth was subdued, reflecting humanity's understanding of what they had learned. President Santos addressed the combined Galactic Assembly with words that echoed across the galaxy. "We did not win this war through superior weapons or tactics. We won by proving that civilizations can choose cooperation over competition, even when facing extinction." The new galactic order that emerged was unlike anything in previous history. Humanity took their place not as the returning rulers of an ancient empire, but as guides who helped coordinate cooperation between diverse species. The ancient human installations continued to function, but their purpose shifted from preparing for war to supporting peaceful development. Admiral Kate Morgan established the Galactic Defense Coordination Center aboard the Eternal Vigil, which became a mobile headquarters for monitoring cosmic threats and coordinating responses that emphasized unity over individual survival. The ship traveled between systems, ensuring that no civilization felt isolated or abandoned. The final discovery came when Dr. Lisa Hoffman's teams explored the deepest archives of the ancient installations. Hidden in quantum storage that had remained sealed for millions of years was a message from the first humans to their descendants, recorded just before they implemented the dissolution protocol. The message was simple but profound. "We give up our empire not because we lack the strength to maintain it, but because we have learned that true strength lies in lifting others up rather than standing above them. We trust that our children will prove worthy of this lesson when their time comes." As the new galactic civilization took shape, with humans serving as coordinators rather than rulers,